for once in our lives, we're not going to be looking all the time at what's happening overseas for direction in the rand. We're going to be looking at a 4-day meeting, an ANC policy meeting, which could have profound effects. I mean, just looking at my agenda here, we've got 13 policy documents, quite serious ones, to be debated. Is that a big focus for you?
Lindsay, yes, absolutely. The meeting kicks off tomorrow, so certainly from that point, any comments or headlines that come out of that meeting are likely to have quite a material impact on local markets. As you would know, there are some quite controversial topics that are up for discussion. We have the NHI, nationalization, potential changes to mining tax, all of those, as headlines come out or as news comes out of that summit, we're likely to have quite a material impact on local markets.
I know that you sent somebody from Standard Bank to cover this meeting, and it'll be very, very important. Will there be a situation where there's going to be a sort of a knee-jerk reaction? In other words, if there is some sort of Marxist, leftist, or whatever it is, controversial rhetoric that comes out of mid-round, immediately the rand starts to weaken? Or is it going to be a situation where the big movers of the market are going to be the overseas chaps that sit down and spend the weekend going through the policy document decisions with a fine-tooth comb and then hitting us on Monday? How will it work?
I do think that the greater risk lies in a knee-jerk reaction, particularly, as I mentioned, on some of the more controversial topics that are up for discussion this week. So certainly, one would know that the rand is quite volatile, and there's always the risk that market participants are going to respond more to headlines than to the underlying discussions or fundamentals that come out of the documents and policy discussions. Of course, policy that comes out of here is going to be under close scrutiny. We have ratings agencies that are looking at this and have warned that they're seeing a leftward shift and more pressure for more populist policies coming out of the ANC, and that could have some implications for South Africa, in particular South Africa's credit rating, which is already on negative watch, and so there's potentially the risk there of a ratings downgrade, and so of course all of those risks and repercussions are going to be the focus of markets this week as well.
Yeah, the ratings agency has been very busy all over the place, whether it be banks, whether it be European sovereign debt ratings. Is there any chance, do you think, that should the wrong things or the perceived wrong things be said in mid-round this week, and if our growth figures remain poor, that we could get the dreaded downgrade?
I think it would take more than simply discussions or headlines to prompt a downgrade. I think what would need to precede a possible downgrade is an actual change in policy. So, i.e., at the end of the policy, to have several things adopted that investors seen as being quite market unfriendly, and then that would need to be followed up by those policies being made part of government policy. So, I think the chances of that are quite slim. I don't think that there's going to be anything controversial that's finally decided on at the outcome of this policy conference. But again, that is certainly where the risk lies for the meantime.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I had lunch with somebody associated with the ratings agency quite recently, and there was absolutely no talk. Obviously, he wouldn't be indiscreet enough to talk to somebody like me with a big mouth about that sort of thing, but it doesn't look like it. Not in the near term anyway. Dollar rand was sub 820 not so long ago. Nomvuyo currently in the mid 840s. Where's the line of least resistance, do you think? The 820 level, the 850, 860 level? What are your thoughts?
Well, at the moment, we maintain that the rand has a weakening bias, so certainly we expect it to continue to drift lower, particularly at this point when we have this uncertainty, or dual uncertainty, I should say, over local government policy as well as internationally, with everyone waiting on the EU summit. So I think the bias in the rand is certainly towards greater weakness in the run-up to the EU conference and as we wait for headlines on the local ANC policy conference.